Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here and this is my weekly wrap up of what I've read this week. Before we get into the snippets of the books that I've been reading, I just wanted to let you know that I have drawn the winner of the Happy Mum, Happy Baby competition, and the lovely subscriber who is going to be winning a copy of this book by Giovanna Fletcher is Lottie Loves Reading Claridge, I think that's how you say her name. I will put it down here and I will also put it in the description. Congratulations to you, and I hope you really enjoy the book. And also I wanted to mention that the April Book Buddy box on my Etsy store is now open. I think they're nearly or half gone, over half gone now, so if you want to make sure that you get an April box, don't forget to go over there and grab that, and the link as always is in the description as well. Anyway, that's the little bit of admin. Let's get into the books. So the first three things that I've finished over the last few days are volumes 1, 2 and 3 of Princess Jellyfish. And this is a manga series by Akiko Higashimura. Now, I haven't read an awful lot of manga before, and I certainly haven't read any for quite a long time, but I saw this on Maya's channel, and it just sounded like something that was really fun. It's about this group of girls and they live in a Mamazukan, which is a house which is dedicated for a safe haven, it says on the back, for geek girls who gush about different things, and they're all geeky about different things. Our main character is Tsukimi, and I apologise, I may get these names wrong, but Tsukimi is obsessed with jellyfish, and she's just obsessed with all types of jellyfish. One of the other girls is obsessed with trains, one's obsessed with older men, and one is obsessed with Japanese dolls, and they live in this house together and they don't have any men, and one day they're all completely petrified of what they call the stylish, so they're sort of, you know, like your girls with the blonde hair and knee-high boots, and anybody that's really fashionable and trendy they're really scared of, and they sort of turn to stone, and they don't go near them, and they break out in sweats, and they just keep to themselves, and they don't really make any money. They're living off money that their parents give them, and this place that they're staying at belongs to one of the girls that lives there's mum, so they're sort of living there a bit rent-free, I think, and all of a sudden this stylish girl happens across one of them, and it turns out that she's not a girl and she is a boy in drag, and it just goes from there really. And the main crux of the story is that developers are trying to buy out this house that they're living in, and it's just about their exploits and their relationships, and it's just so much fun. I'm really enjoying it. Something I really struggle with often with manga is that I don't get the sense of humour, and I don't get a lot of the interactions among the characters. I don't get the cultural context that a lot of stuff is in, because obviously most of it is originally, I believe, written in Japanese, and the Japanese culture is so far removed from English culture that often I miss those little nuances and those little digs and those little jokes, and this one is just brilliant. It's really works. There's things in there that I'm not quite sure I get, and there are things in there that I just think are you know, culturally the same wherever you live, and it's just brilliant. I've just loved these. I believe that these are the only 3 out at the moment in English, and that the next one's out in April, so I borrowed these from the library, because although not buying books for Shelf Slam, I couldn't resist these from the library, so I did get these from the library. I don't think it's cheating, but they'll be going back to the library for someone else to read, but I definitely recommend this if you want to try some manga and you're not sure where to start, because I definitely think these are a good opening point, and I gave all 3 of these 4 stars. The next book I finished was Furthermore by Tahara Muffy. This is one of the middle grade shortlist books for the SFF Awards, the BookTube SFF Awards 2017. This, along with 2 Rick Riordan books, are in the running for the best middle grade novel. I'm running the read along for this, so if you want to come and chat some more about it once you've heard my review and you've picked up the book, then come over to our Goodreads page, which is all linked down below, and come and chat in the thread which is in the March read alongs for Furthermore. I thought I'd sort of get started with this one, and it's middle grade, so I thought it'd be quite quick. It's sort of 400 pages. I've read the Shatter Me series by Tahara Murphy, which is her young adult series, and I thought it was okay. It wasn't great for me, it was just okay. It got better as the series went on, but it certainly wasn't one that I would rave about. And I had high hopes for this. It has been described as quite whimsical, quite fairy tale-esque, both of which I think are very true. But I ended up being disappointed, unfortunately, by this one for a number of reasons. It starts off quite promising, although a little strange. We do get a lot of world building going on, and we're following our main character Alice, which there have been other people that have mentioned this. There is very much similarities to me in this of Alice in Wonderland. There is definitely some feels of that, you know, this falling down and some of the upside down, roundabout, strange goings on that happen in Alice in Wonderland, and the same here in Furthermore. But we're following our main character Alice, and she's very different from everybody. Everyone from where she lives in Ferrenwood is very colourful and bright, and the colour is their magic, and she is almost colourless, and a blank canvas, and which is sort of said to show that maybe she doesn't have any magic, and she's sort of treated very differently from people, and it bothers her being different from everybody else. And when they get to a certain age, they go through the surrender. And this means that they have to stand in front of everybody with the rest of their class, and they have to show their magical ability, because everyone's given a talent, or everyone has a talent, which is something that they're best at magic wise. And once they've done their surrender, they get given a task which could take them away, and Alice's father has disappeared a number of years earlier, and all she wants to do is find him, and we're following her journey into this place called Furthermore with somebody else. And I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to spoil anything. My biggest peeves with this, my biggest peeve was that it was sort of going and going and going, and then it wrapped up in like 10 pages. And it just felt very much of a like, oh, I've reached my page count, let's finish now, which irritated me after everything we've been through. I didn't like our protagonist or the person she was travelling with. I found them irritating. I found that they, especially the person that she's travelling with on this journey, didn't offer up anything, continually just said, oh, I'll tell you later, and we're in a rush, I can't tell you any of that information now. And I just found that really frustrating, and it made me quite angry and just want to put the book down. So I didn't like that. Yeah, I just felt the pacing was a bit off. I didn't like the characters particularly, and I felt like we built up and up and up, and then it was like, whoa, and it's finished. And it was just all a bit too neatly in a bow within, you know, 10-20 pages for me. So unfortunately this one's a 3-star read, so there's still all to play for the Rick Riordans. I am listening to The Sword of Summer, which isn't up for the shortlist, but is the book that comes before, I think it's The Hammer of Thor, which is up. So I'm listening to that now to get myself ready to read the next one. So we shall see how they get on, but at the moment this is the only one in that category I've read, and I've given it 3 stars. And then another book that I finished today is Granta, issue 110, which is Themed Sex. This is a magazine of writing, and I've picked up quite a few of these over the last year or so, and they're basically a collection of different authors, and there's poetry, there's short stories, there's photos, and various different things in here, and I picked it up as a way of getting to know some different types of authors and to see if I enjoyed their work, and also to try and get into short stories more. This one certainly hasn't got me into short stories, unfortunately. Some of them I really enjoyed reading, and then they finished and I was like, well, what was the point of this? I didn't seem to be a point. I don't get it. And I get that a lot with short stories, unfortunately. The theme of all of these ones is sex in some way, but yeah, I just think a lot of them missed their mark for me, and I found it a bit boring. And there was one that I really, really enjoyed. It was called The Spa by Tom McCarthy, and I enjoyed it all the way through. It was about this sort of young man who'd gone with his sort of assistant to this sort of spa because he had something wrong with him, and he had to go through these different treatments, and it was about the people he met there in this town, and I really enjoyed it. And then I really just felt it ended like really abruptly and without sort of wrapping anything up or without sort of finishing the story. And I wish it hadn't, because I would then have looked up and maybe gone to find some more of Tom McCarthy's work, because I did enjoy the writing. So that's a shame, but I am using these as a way of sort of getting to know different authors' writing styles and seeing if I like them. So unfortunately there wasn't even a standout one that I can tell you about, because I really wasn't that taken with any of them. So I gave this one 2 stars, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I just wanted to pop back in, it's actually the same evening, because one of the books that I'm still currently reading is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and this is an ARC copy. The book is out on the 28th of March, and I'm just... One thing that I want to talk about before I've even finished the book, I'm only 160 pages in, and it's about 550 pages long, is how much I love Laini Taylor's writing. And one thing I really wanted to do for this one is to read you the prologue, which is just 2 pages long, so you can really get a feel of how wonderful she is. So get tucked in, and here is the prologue. On the second Sabbat of 12th moon in the city of Weep, a girl fell from the sky. Her skin was blue, her blood was red. She broke over an iron gate, crimping it on impact, and there she hung, impossibly arched, graceful as a temple dancer swooning on a lover's arm. One slick finial anchored her in place, its point protruding from her sternum glittered like a brooch. She fluttered briefly as her ghost shook loose. The torch ginger buds rained out of her long hair. Later, they would say these had been hummingbird hearts and not blossoms at all. They would say that she hadn't shed blood but wept it, that she was lewd, tonguing her teeth at them upside down and dying, that she vomited a serpent that turned to smoke when it hit the ground. They would say a flock of moths came frantic and tried to lift her away. That was true, only that. They hadn't a prayer though. The moths were no bigger than the startled mouths of children, and even dozens together could only pluck at the strands of her darkening hair until their wings sagged sodden with her blood. They were pearled away with the blossoms as a grit-choked gust came blasting down the street. The earth heaved underfoot, the sky spun on its axis. A queer brilliance lanced through the billowing smoke, and the people of Weep who had to squint against it. Blowing grit and hot light and the stink of saltpetre. There had been an explosion. They might have died all and easily, but only this girl had, shaken from some pocket of the sky. Her feet were bare, her mouth stained damson, her pockets were all full of plums. She was young and lovely and surprised and dead. She was also blue. Blue as opals, pale blue, blue as cornflowers or dragonfly wings or a spring, not summer, sky. Someone screamed. The scream drew others. The others screamed too, not because a girl was dead, but because the girl was blue, and this meant something in the city of Weep. Even after the sky stopped reeling and the earth settled and the last fumes spluttered from the blast site and dispersed, the screams went on, feeding themselves from voice to voice, a virus of the air. The blue girl's ghost gathered itself and perched bereft upon the spear-point tip of the projecting finial, just an inch above her own still chest. Gasping in shock, she tilted back her invisible head and gazed mournfully up. The screams went on, and across the city, atop a monolithic wedge of seamless, mirror-smooth metal, a statue stirred, as though awakened by the tumult, and slowly lifted its great horned head. Okay, so I have finished it. I finished Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and this took me about 5 days to read. And I was thinking about it as I was reading, and I was thinking about like how I feel about different books, and I was thinking, oh, you know, do I read slowly if I don't enjoy something and it's because I don't want to pick it up? And I was like, well, no, that's not always the case, because I was absolutely loving this, but for some reason I just really wanted to savour it. And I find it quite interesting in that way, because sometimes a 5-star read for me is one that I gobble up and I just love, and then at other times a 5-star read like this one is one that I take my time over and really sort of get stuck in. And Laini Taylor just has a wonderful way of creating a world and a place and a story. And I would say that there were bits of this that you kind of knew what was going to happen, but it didn't matter, and there was enough twists that you didn't know. But what Laini Taylor really, I think, does well is characters. She makes you feel for the characters, she makes them whole, she makes them real people, and I just love that. So I'll tell you a bit about the story, but I'm not going to tell you too much, because it really is one of those books that I think when you go into it, it's great to just see it unravel for yourself. We've got a male protagonist in this, and he's called Laszlo, but he's nicknamed Strange the Dreamer, hence the name of the book, because he's a bit of a dreamer. His surname is Strange. His name's Laszlo Strange. We follow him from his beginnings, living in a monastery with the monks, to when he becomes a librarian, and then on to what happens next. We follow his journey to this place called Weep, and I don't really want to say much more, because it really is one of those stories that unravels. But needless to say, it's fantasy. There is gods and monsters and alchemy and knowledge, and there's some very heavy content in there, so trigger warnings for rape. Definitely there's trigger warnings here for rape, so if that's something that you can't read or hear about, then this probably isn't the book for you. There's not really much violence and things like that, but definitely rape is something that occurs in this and is quite heavy and a big theme. So go into that with your eyes open if that's something that is a trigger for you. I just adored this. I adored it. I adored the characters. I'm slightly angry because now I've got to wait for book 2, because as always, Laini Taylor has wrapped it up to an extent, but left this massive gaping what happens next. So yeah, I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend you pick it up. I think it comes out on the 28th of this month, so not long to wait, and pre-order your copies now, guys, because if you like Laini Taylor, you're going to love this one. So that's all I've read this week. I'm in the process of reading multiple books, but I will catch up with you next week and let you know what I'm reading then. What are you reading? Have you read any 5-star books this week? Let me know, and let's chat in the comments. Bye for now, BookTube.